What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardawar. This week I'm joined by Sam Rutherford, Senior Writer. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
Going okay. And also podcast producer Ben Elman. Hey, Ben.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We're back. We're back on the live stream. We're back with a full show, too. If you missed last week's episode, I did an interview with a Carvana CPO. That's worth checking out if you hate the car buying experience. I had to step out for some family stuff, but we're back. We're going to talk about the state of games and kind of where the industry is right now. This is going to be one of many discussions, but this is triggered from the news that EA plans to be going private in 2027. They're selling to a whole bunch of folks that are kind of like iffy and messy, but it's a $55 billion acquisition that's going to have long-term reactions for the game industry. But also, there's a whole bunch of news from Microsoft and Xbox. There's stuff happening all around the games. There's also a bunch of games that are out now that we want to talk about that we're enjoying.
Like
So we want to
really good games.
really good games I cannot stop playing, including Silk Song, of course, but also Final Fantasy Tactics. I really want to talk about my love for that game. So we've also got some chat about the Amazon event, all the new Echo stuff, and a bit of news too. If you've been enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes, drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com, and definitely leave us your questions because they may get used in the Ask Engadget section on the site, make become a whole post. So, drop us your notes, podcast@engadget.com. Join us Thursday mornings around 10:30 a.m. Eastern for our live streams. You can watch us show off gadgets. We'll do some Q&A, and we've got a fun crowd in the chat room too. So join us. It's a blast. I want to start this week off by just talking about this EA acquisition because it's wild. It is $55 billion. It is taking a company that's been public for decades, a well-known gaming company. It's going to be sold to a bunch of investors, including the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, the PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. Affinity Partners, by the way, which is, I believe, co-run or at least in conjunction with Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So all our favorite people are going to be buying EA. And this brings up a lot of questions too, because the Saudi Arabian investment thing, everyone's talking about the Riyadh Comedy Festival that's happening right now too, and the sort of blowback comedians are getting for that. In short, it is a comedy festival taking place in Riyadh by the Saudi Arabian government. They're paying these comedians to go there. Saudi Arabia, country known for many problems, sort of chopping up journalists that they don't like, imprisoning people who criticize the government, using slave labor
Jamal
to go
Khashoggi
after.
is not the only one,
Yeah,
too.
he's not the only one. He's the one we know about, and it's been confirmed. And it's disgusting. And the guy behind all that, the Crown Prince, is also the one pushing all this entertainment stuff because the country needs things beyond oil. They need investments beyond oil. They need to make money and also sort of like sanitize the sort of scary image they've had from doing all this stuff. So this is what all of this stuff is part of. Um, I've seen some thinking here that the EA acquisition could be good for them because for things like yearly or annual releases for sports games, investment funds tend to like that. They may not be investing like big crazy ideas. It also, by going private, the thing that we do every quarter is where we look at a company's quarterly earnings and kind of see how they're doing. They're not beholden to investors. They don't have to deal with quarterly earnings. There is some thinking that private companies can be a little braver and bolder in terms of the ideas they cover, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case here because they're doing, I believe, like $20 billion in debt to get this thing going. Like many investment companies, like they will want to basically shave this company down to the point where it's more efficient and profitable. And that means laying off tons of people, canceling tons of projects, closing studios. Maybe they'll carve up like EA properties, right? Maybe they'll sell off studios or specific things to other companies. But
So
it's
before
just
we
kind of a
get
messy thing.
deeper
Yeah.
into the ramifications, let's talk about just where this sits in the general scope of leverage buyouts. This is now the biggest leverage buyout in history.
And what do you mean
Number
by leverage buyout?
l-
Specifically, that is, yeah.
Leverage buyout is where a bunch of like private equity companies get together and they're like, "Hey, we want to buy this, but also in order to buy this, uh, we're going to borrow money,
Yes.
and we're not going to borrow money. The private equity firms are not going to borrow the money. The company borrows the money to buy itself. So this deal was $36 billion from all of the partners, the Saudi Investment Fund,
Mhm.
Kushner's company, and the like. And 20 billion is going to go in on EA's balance sheet as debt.
Yeah. So a bank, I think it's JP Morgan, but a bank is putting in that money too. So
Yes.
it's
So
weird
this
how
is
all this stuff works. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the biggest leverage buyout in history now. Second is a Texas electric company called Energy Future Holdings. And the
Uh-huh.
third is Elon Musk's Twitter buyout, because that was
Yeah.
40 something billion in 2022.
Yeah.
Um, then
Yeah. Yeah.
like now I think we're more set up to talk about why there might be so many layoffs, because it's not just like things are redundant or like these private equity firms are just going to want to make things as efficient as possible, big air quotes there.
Yeah.
It's that EA now has $20 billion of new debt on its balance sheet that they're going to say like, oh no, how can we possibly make money on Madden and like it's EAFC now. It's not
Yeah.
even FIFA because their deal with
Because of the
FIFA
license.
ran
Yeah.
out. Um, how can we possibly make money if we don't do major layoffs?
I don't quite know. Like, I'm not a finance guy. I don't know how, if you are the one borrowing the money, how does this become part of your purchase like value? I don't understand that, especially when it's a debt that you will have to deal with once the acquisition goes through. By the way, this is all pending regulatory approval. I think they're thinking that they'll aim to get it completed by 2027, early 2027. If it doesn't go through, there was a $1 billion cancellation fee, which is very typical for these things. But here's the thing, the reason we're seeing this and so many other companies be like, now is a good time to start merging and acquiring things, is because of lax regulations from the Trump administration. Also, literally, this is a major investment from his son-in-law's investment fund. Um, it's probably going to go through. It's probably going to
Yeah.
go through without much issue. Yeah.
Notice that the Trump kids are also factoring into the goings on in Washington much less in this
Mhm.
go round of the Trump administration. So I think they're just trying to like move in silence and make a bunch of money this
Move
time
in
around.
silence, make put up what was it? Instagram photos of your shirts from on the White House and try to sell that too, which is what his granddaughter was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Shirts
God.
made in Bangladesh, everybody. All that fun stuff. So it is also worth pointing out, this is not the overall biggest acquisition in the gaming world. I think that one is still Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, which was $75.4 billion.
Mm.
That's how insane that deal was. Microsoft was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna buy it. We're not gonna bring in all these other investors. We're not gonna pile on debt. I forget if that was like a stock deal or something, but they had the money to certainly buy that. Uh, all this is to say, EA is no longer going to be the EA. If this goes through, EA that you knew and maybe loved, I don't know, will not exist moving forward. It's going to be a very different thing run by very different overlords. This is also part of the whole issue we've seen around consolidation in the gaming world too, in a certain sense. Like EA was always its own thing, but now it's going to be owned by different people and they're going to have different priorities too. So with Activision Blizzard, we certainly saw a lot of layoffs at those studios, a lot of games being canceled, and also a lot of messiness too. Like just Microsoft was not paying attention to those studios or those developers, and games just kind of came out and were not as optimized or were not as polished as they should have been if they were owned by a company that actually paid attention to them. So there's all sorts of things that can happen. We don't really have much other news to go on right now other than to say this is wild and you may want to pour one out for EA in the coming year because it's going to be a very, very different company moving forward.
So let me
If
ask you, when you say pour one out, like, do you think people are gonna be sad about this? Look, I understand that,
Yeah,
like,
people won't notice. Yeah.
there are some, like, big franchises that EA is in charge of. I think probably Battlefield is probably the biggest one,
Yeah. Need for
but
speed and all that stuff. Yeah.
but so it's like, coming from like a long time gamer, it's like if you look at the history of like EA acquisitions and the number of studios and franchises that EA has run to the ground, in a lot of way, this is like kind of karma coming full cycle where, now private equity has kind of bought them out and they're getting saddled with their own debt pretty
Yeah.
much. And
It's
so
not quite, yeah, I hear you, Sam. It's not quite karma because all the people at the top will be seriously rewarded for this deal.
true.
And shareholders will make a lot of money as part of this deal too. So they're not being punished; they're being rewarded, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm,
it's not
I'm
like the developers were the ones who were like,
No.
I can't wait to
for,
cancel this title.
for sure. It's like a weird. It's like I just feel very conflicted about this because it's like EA has run some of like my favorite gaming franchises into the ground.
Absolutely.
Most notably like
Absolutely.
Command and Conquer.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not a Sims player, but they have not really done a lot with The Sims in a way that I think people would really like to see. Star Wars Battlefront, Skate,
Yeah.
Plants for Zombies. Remember when they took Plants for Zombies, a really fun tower defense game, and tried to make it a first-person shooter? Yeah, how'd that work out?
As any big, especially a big video game company, like they were messy. Like they ruined a lot of things too, and a lot of people are saying like good riddance here. I'm saying like we should think about it more broadly. Like it would have been nice if somebody were able to come in and kind of right the ship, maybe.
For sure.
With
This is the
And that's
like
what
the
they
responsible
always
like
yeah,
let's try to be better
But that's what they
optimistic way.
always say. That's what private
yeah,
equity says. They're like,
yes,
oh, well, there were excesses from being a private, excuse me, there were excesses from being a public company. It was running inefficiently. We can come in and right
yeah,
the ship. And their idea of righting the ship is laying off a bunch of people, cutting benefits, making things overall worse for workers.
hmm
So if you were ever a proponent of that one post, I think it was probably from Twitter back when it was Twitter, that I want game devs to get paid more to work less and
yeah,
shorter games with worse graphics, that's going to be impossible under this new regime at EA.
basically. And this is also sort of like the inevitable outcome of any major company that finds a certain amount of success. If you are a public company, your investors are just pushing you to grow, 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 push that stock price up, make as much revenue, cut costs where you can,
Right. That's the
and yeah,
traditional trap of like a public company. You
yeah,
are always looking 4 months ahead to that next quarterly earnings report to make the shareholders happy.
yeah, and you can only
Although it really depends on whether or not there's going to be quarterly earnings reports too. If you've heard what the Trump administration says they want to do, they want
Uh,
like bi-yearly earnings or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Mhm.
weird. So
Agreed.
Sam, you were talking about Command and Conquer, and in the last like week or so, I was seeing more people post that one clip of Tim Curry saying that he's escaping to the one place that
God bless him.
hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
Mhm.
I didn't really realize that the EA purchase was probably spurring people remembering, like, oh man,
Oh yeah.
remember what EA did to Command and Conquer?
Yeah, yeah, all that stuff. The guy who did the "It's in the game" voice. There are TikToks of him going around because he's now an older gentleman. And he's like showing his kids, this is how you do it. EA Sports, it's in the game. I never even played EA Sports games, but like that was a thing that was so iconic in the '90s. But yeah, EA was not a great company, but it's not going to none. This will not fix any of the problems of EA. It will certainly only worsen the problems that the game industry is facing right now, and we can only wait and see like where this goes. Like this will most likely go ahead. um there's kind of nothing stopping them because what all these big companies are getting from this current administration is just a lack of roadblocks and a green light to do whatever they want, so long as they kiss the ring, I guess. So kind of related to all this, um also worth pointing out, I dropped this link in too. Don't forget that Pokemon Go is also now owned by a Saudi company because they bought the video game side of Niantic a couple of years ago for $3.5 billion. So they definitely, the Saudi government also wants to be in charge of more entertainment and to be making money there, but it also to be like, hey, we're the ones giving you the things you love, right?
Right.
We're,
And it's not
we're
just
good.
like the comedy,
Mhm.
festival that's going on. They've had like WWE events
Oh yeah,
hosted in Saudi
yeah,
Arabia, and so this is definitely part of a bigger push from Saudi. The Live Golf thing I believe was
yep.
tied to the Saudis as well. And
They've
so
backed up dump trucks full of money onto like the top 10 soccer players'
Hmm.
oh, for
um,
sure. Yep.
front
And so this is
lawns.
definitely like a big push by the Saudi government as a whole to kind of, hey, we want to change our image by bringing in more of these, outside entertainment vehicles.
Absolutely. So yeah.
And like who knows how effective it's going to be, because you need to be doing this for probably more than a decade to see any kind of um of like movement in public
Mhm.
opinion, and this stuff is mostly targeting like people who I think are older and might already have some set ideas about Saudi Arabia. So I don't know what they're going to be doing. Maybe this like new push for, buying EA is also, going to try to like maybe
I
they'll
actually
try to
think it's the
promote
opposite. I
Saudi
think
Arabia somehow
I
in the
actually think the
game.
Saudis are going after the younger generation who don't have memories of,
Mm,
Yes.
before having previous interactions. And so they're going to grow up, they take a 12-year-old kid who watches WWE, they're going to grow up thinking that Saudi Arabia is like this big entertainment hub.
mm,
Um and so they won't have that like the same kind of
like a
context that
Dubai or
older people
Monaco
might.
or
For
something,
sure.
right?
Right.
But I
Yeah,
also
yeah, yeah,
think
sure.
a lot of countries that have done bad things are looking at like, man, everybody really loves Japan now, huh? Everybody loves Japan. Let's all forget about what happened a while ago during World War II. Let's forget about all that because
Let's
what
forget
they're
about
doing.
the entire reason we understand how frostbite works.
Yeah,
Japanese Unit 731, go look it up.
yeah, that's all fun stuff. So hey, yeah, a lot of countries have done many things, and the U.S. as well. The U.S. is not innocent in many things, but countries will also do many things to sort of like make themselves look better in the eyes of history, and I kind of feel like that's what's happening here. Certainly not to the same degree, but I also wanted to talk about what the hell is happening with Microsoft and Xbox because it just seems like fail after fail after fail over here. This week they announced that Game Pass Ultimate is moving to $30 a month, up from what 20, right?
Mhm.
Um, they are making some features better. They are making the game streaming better. The cloud streaming is actually finally going up to 1440p. It's going to be a little faster. The queues should be faster. They're also bringing cloud streaming down to the lower tier. So there is a $10 Game Pass tier and the $15 tier. Those differ in like, do you get the first run games or not? They kind of differ in terms of features, but they are trying to spread that out a bit. Still, Game Pass Ultimate, $30. That's the one a lot of people want because that also lets you play Game Pass stuff on your PC and on your console. It's kind of like a just a free for all for you to get whatever you want from Microsoft. But they also raised prices of Xbox consoles last month. And it's wild like where things sit now. The
That was
Xbox
the
Series
second
S,
price increase, if
that
I'm
was
not
the second
mistaken.
price increase. And the Xbox Series S is now $400. The Series X digital is $600. The Series S was supposed to be the cheap one, right? That thing was getting close to 200 on sale over the past few years before certain things happened. The economy took a tank. Series X digital is 600. Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Special Edition is $800, which is more than the
Ouch.
PlayStation 5 Pro, which is a new console that can actually do more things than the Series X. Just kind of a wild situation they're in. Things are so bad right now that we saw the news that Costco has confirmed it is not going to be stocking Xboxes anymore. Because why? Who would buy an Xbox right
I
now?
mean, that's
Like
just a really bad sign for, the Xbox, industry in general, because as soon as people are having a harder time finding your product, then you're not getting your product into the hands of customers, which is
this
where
is
you need to be if you want to grow market share, popularity,
Sam,
etc.
absolutely true. Also, this is kind of an unprecedented thing that's happening because it's like nobody is going for that hardware. It's not just that Microsoft can't sell the hardware. I think they're aware. That's kind of why this price increases have been happening. It's also partially why they've had that like Xbox, everything is an Xbox marketing thing, right? Like your computer with cloud streaming is an Xbox, this ROG Xbox Ally handheld is an Xbox, your gaming PC, Xbox too, because you can just do all this stuff to it. So they're kind of like flattening what the idea of an Xbox is, but the console itself, for the love of God, do not buy an Xbox console right now. Certainly don't buy Series S, don't buy Series X. Save that money if you need a game system under your TV, the PlayStation 5 is the way to go because also Microsoft is getting their first party games out there to other platforms. Not Halo yet, but Gears of War, certainly. Call of Duty is technically theirs now. Forza Horizon is all moving over there. So it's like for this generation, it is wild how you can like look at how they failed the launch of the original Xbox One, basically. The Xbox One, which was the follow up to the 360, they had so much goodwill from the 360, blew it all. because they were like, this is an entertainment device. It has to be online all the time.
I
And
was
people did
about to
not like
say,
that.
is
Yeah.
this now two generations of underperforming home entertainment things, not even game consoles from
And
Microsoft?
absolutely. And here's the thing. The very first Xbox, the big old boxy Xbox from Microsoft,
Duke.
also total failure. The Duke, well, that was the controller.
Yes,
But
true.
it was a total failure, billions of dollars lost. They had to get the hell out of that console and basically ramp up to get the 360 out quicker than people expected. That's part of why Sony was caught flat-footed with the PS3. So the 360 was
I liked the original Xbox, but then again, I was young enough to not really know better.
the greatest thing about the original Xbox is that it had an Ethernet port. So if you
Yeah.
were in a college like I was and it was fully
Yeah.
networked, you could play Halo with people in other dorm rooms and stuff and have the time of your life because this was before Xbox Live launched. This was before online matchmaking was even a thing. Um, but yeah, the 360 came in and kind of defined how online matchmaking would work on
Hmm.
consoles. It made indie games accessible on consoles because you could just download them because you have the internet. So that was such a perfect console for the time that fully met the moment. Xbox One did not meet the moment. In fact, completely swung and missed by trying to include the Kinect and trying to include like all of Microsoft's like entertainment marketing stuff. And this gen, everybody was hit by the pandemic. Things were really unstable. But Xbox was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna make the most powerful box there is, and we're gonna be more powerful than the PlayStation 5. Technically true, developers did not give a shit. So that's kind of like they're just stuck now. They're stuck because people are not buying this hardware. It's had to get more expensive because of tariffs and because of stuff happening from this administration, and also just the overall economic like the economy around the world is kind of a mess now too.
Mhm.
Where does
I mean,
Microsoft
the
fit some?
tariffs and all that, that's a huge part of it.
It's a huge part of it, but it also kind of seems like the ROG Xbox Ally devices could be another first step for them. The Xbox Ally is $600. The Xbox Ally X, the more powerful one, is $1,000. And Sam, you are our resident like portable game console guy at this point. What do you think of these? Like, do you think these could actually help Microsoft? Because I think I have a lot of thoughts, but what do you think?
So I think I'm of two minds. I think there's kind of like a question I think that the handheld gamers kind of need to answer as a market, and
Mhm.
that's the thing is there's one camp of handheld gamers who love playing like retro stuff, and they just they need dirt cheap handhelds, and then you look at the Steam Deck, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like in the $500 $600 price range for like nicely spec ones. You can get them for even cheaper than that.
Like 400 is the base ones, and they often go on sale. Yeah.
Right. And then there's this other camp where it's like, I want big performance out of a handheld. And this has been kind of the push because part of the reason why that ROG Ally Xbox X is so expensive is because that has the Ryzen Z2 Extreme chip. And
Mhm.
this is actually slightly cheaper than the Lenovo Legion Go 2, which is for the same chip, is starting around $1,100 to $1,300.
Insane.
And
Insane.
and,
Yeah.
and so I'm sitting here. It's like, oh man, I appreciate the Steam Deck even more than I did
Yes.
before because it remains relatively affordable. The performance is not outstanding, but it's good enough for most of the stuff that I need to play. And at the end of the day, this is like an extra machine. This is not going to be your primary. You're not going to buy this to do homework at college on, right? It's like
Mhm.
then it's not that type of device. And so, but there is that camp who really want big performance. And unfortunately, when you want big
Mhm.
performance, you have to push hardware, you have to push
Yeah.
silicon, and that results in a really high price tag. Which, I mean, yes, the regular ROG Xbox Ally still exists, and that is definitely more affordable. But it's like, well, what's the limit on this? Like now we have these
Mhm.
PC gaming handhelds that cost more than a console, which was sort of the I kind of
Yeah.
it was supposed to be a portable console that you could take on the go, and now that's not really the case anymore. And so
Mhm.
in some ways this is good because hey, we do have more choice. It's not like the other older handhelds are gone. You can still buy them, and a lot of them have been discounted, so they are more affordable than at launch. But I think it'll be a really interesting thing to see where this kind of market develops in terms of how many people want big, basically
Yeah.
gaming laptop performance in a handheld, or how many people want something a little bit more portable, a little bit more affordable for playing stuff on the couch. And then, there's that whole can of worms like, hey, has streaming game streaming gotten so good to the point where all you really need is kind of a dummy device with a really good Wi-Fi 5G connection, and then you could just stream everything in the cloud and pay monthly, and then have cheaper, hardware to play your
Yeah.
game streaming stuff on.
I think these device makers made a fundamental problem when they started focusing on, like, these gamers are demanding high performance, the same crazy gamers who don't mind spending $1,000 plus on a graphics card, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I can see Lenovo catering to them and Xbox ROG and everybody. That does seem like a mistake because you're right, Sam. It misses all the good stuff that happened with the Steam Deck, but also what happened with the Switch. And people tend to forget that the Switch basically begat the Steam Deck. Like the Switch kind of proved a handheld device, even if it's
Mhm.
underpowered, can do a lot. And now you have the Switch 2 at 450. You have the Steam Deck, which starts around 400, and I've seen sales for refurbed units go for like 350. You can do a lot with the Steam Deck, and that was the idea, that you have a really decent amount of gaming performance in a device under $500. Sure, you could spend more, a little bit more, to get a better screen or whatever, but generally, $500 is kind of where we're hovering around for a device that could give you basic gaming, maybe hook it up to TV, maybe use it as like a mini console. When you get to closer to $1,000, when you get to actually $1,000, it seems like, who the heck is this thing for? Because
Right. If you're having to
yeah,
choose between, do I get a new laptop or do I get a new handheld gaming PC? That becomes a very weird question to ask,
yeah.
especially depending on your budget.
And also the graphical differences on a screen that's like 7 to 8 inches, you are not really going to see that much compared to getting a laptop with a bigger well, like with a bigger screen, or playing on a normal PC. Like, you're not going to see a lot of these differences that you're paying for in this hardware. It just seems like a mistake to me, and I also feel like all the ROG Xbox Ally devices are too expensive for what they are. Like, the base one should be 500. It should be closer to that. If you're going to have a more premium one, 800, because what is like 800-ish seems like the upper limit of what that could acceptably be.
And
And
once again, I think
yeah,
tariffs are,
yeah,
impacting this. I think if you looked at some, internal business documents from Microsoft and Asus, I think they were shooting for 500 and,
yeah,
closer to 800, 850. And so a lot of there are some outside influences that are making this even more challenging, especially from the consumer standpoint, than they probably otherwise would have been.
mhm,
But yeah, it's really frustrating to see.
yeah. So
The question that I
yeah,
posed to both of you right before we started recording was, does this mean that PlayStation and Sony are at the absolute back of the pack when it comes to handhelds now? Because we were just talking about, like, the Nintendo begat the Steam Deck, and now we have this ROG Ally that's like flawed and too expensive, but at least it exists. And PlayStation has the Portal.
I
yeah,
So
don't
the
we
Portal, and they're working on one.
I
So
don't. I don't think so. Yeah, there are reports that they're working one. I don't know, Dev. You kind of like the Portal, and I
I did
like
not
the
like the Portal.
Portal.
I did not like the Portal.
Oh,
Like,
sorry.
my review was
I,
like 75. So
I
Aaron,
like
our
the I
editor,
like the
the Portal.
idea
Yeah,
of the Portal as something that, like, hey, it lets you play your PlayStation games on the couch while
mhm,
someone else is watching TV. Turn the volume down. You can kind of have fun together, even if you're playing a handheld and they're watching TV or whatever. Um, but I don't think that Sony's on the back foot. Number one, because remember, Asus is making the ROG Xbox Ally. This is not a Microsoft thing. Microsoft is
yeah,
putting a little bit of dev work into the software and stuff like that, which, don't get me wrong, is very important. But I think more of the risk is coming from Asus, in terms of stakes and future development. And on top of that, I don't think it's that much more work because the portal exists, and I think that the design of the portal is not, you know, is interesting and feasible in a way that you could see. Oh, we can kind of translate this into a future device. And so the thing that bums me out the most is that if you go back to the Vita days and the PSP days,
yeah, yeah.
the thing that bums me out is Sony had a pathway. They had a product line for all of this, and they let it languish. And that is like
They
kind
gave
of
up. Yeah,
and that's what bugs me the most. I think if Sony comes out with a new, let's call it the Portal 2 or whatever you want it, and it's got good hardware and it's got a good price, I think any sort of like leapfrogging will instantly be erased. They have very much
Mhm.
are in a position where they can instantly become, a big player again in the handheld space. They just got to pick their spots and decide, hey, we want to do it and we want to do
Yeah.
it right. And that is kind of the big question for them.
What a cell phone it was for Sony, by the way, because like the PlayStation Portal was a pretty big success for them. Like that was delivering pretty great hardware back then. The portable, the original PSP,
Mhm.
but PlayStation Vita, that was really good hardware. Like that was an
Yes.
OLED screen, great hardware, and they just like kept failing. They did not get the developer push they needed, and that's on Sony because they did not convince developers to make the games for that system. And then a couple of years later, the Switch launches and kind of like reinvents everything because it's not just a portable system, it's a system that can be a hybrid thing.
And what's
That
so weird that
yeah.
Sony didn't double down
Yes.
on the Vita after the
Yeah.
Switch came out and be like, "Oh, we can do this too." And instead they kind of retreated and we go, "Oh, we're going to take a break from this space entirely."
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a very interesting business decision.
I mean, the
But it's
focus was
painful
like
for the
making
bean counters to
yeah.
see all these losses. Like they
Yeah.
didn't know what they didn't know. They didn't know that
Mhm.
handhelds were just on the horizon.
Mhm.
So I imagine they were talking about sunsetting the whole handheld division
Here is the thing.
as Nintendo was talking about like ramping everything up,
All
and
these companies
that's just
know what
bad
hardware is
timing.
available, Ben. Like all these companies know that Nvidia has a chip that can be really powerful in a couple of years, and they've been talking about that for a while. But do they choose to bet on that or not? And I think like that's the thing. Like they chose not to bet, and they don't. Honestly, Sony doubled down on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and PlayStation 5 has been a huge success for them. Like they undoubtedly own this generation because Microsoft stumbled so much. So when you want a high-end console under your TV, that's what you go to. But then Nintendo's out here still selling Switches like hotcakes and now have a more expensive Switch, so
Yeah.
they could do that.
And
Anyway,
someone in the chat brought up a good point. Sorry, I forget who it is, but
Oh no, I want to bring it up because I asked him how to
okay,
pronounce his name. So it's Niranjan Banda,
okay.
who asked, "What's the point of a gaming? Excuse me. What's the point of gaming on a hardware if everything's cloud streaming and subscription based now? Do we ever get to own anything and play offline like we used to, like the Steam catalog?" And I think that's a great question.
Yes.
I mean, that's certainly true. I think we're going to see a lot of this, by the way, because like I've seen the best of game streaming that's out there, and right now that's Nvidia's GeForce Now, which is fantastic. It's only $20 a month, so if you want a game and you have a screen, you have like just a laptop, that thing is good and worth checking out. But also, it's limited because any hiccup you have on internet, if you want to step outside away from a really fast internet connection, you're going to have a bad experience. So sometimes you just want to like be somewhere else, not at home, not connected to internet, and still play a game or something. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
think even today there is still value in having
Mhm.
local hardware where you don't have to ping a server somewhere, or you don't have to rely on a wireless connection to play your games. And if you care about stuff like latency, even with the best connections, you're still going to have a better time with local hardware, assuming it's affordable and you can carry it around in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
But the other thing that someone mentioned is that is this kind of is Xbox at a point where they're going to have to do the Sega choice, or they're going to have to
Mhm.
give up making physical gaming hardware, and they're going to be like, okay, we are just a publisher now. We make games, and the
Mhm.
games go on whatever platform that we can get it on: PC, Nintendo, PlayStation, whatever.
That's
And
really the question. Yeah.
I think that is the big crossroads that Microsoft is at right now. And I think
Mhm.
more than likely they are probably going to do the Sega thing, because this actually aligns with what the Xbox team has been saying. It's like, we want Xbox everywhere, and if you
Sure.
want Xbox everywhere, you have to. And they have been doing this. They have been porting their games over to other consoles, to other platforms,
Mhm.
and I think you know the fact that there have been reports that they canceled the first party Xbox handheld, and they were relying more on Asus as a
Mhm.
partnership. That kind of, to me,
Mhm.
signals where Xbox is at, when in terms of we're not at a point where they want to fully invest in making their own
Yeah.
first party portable gaming hardware right now, and they're going to take the sort of easier way out by we're going to do a collab and a partnership, and then we're going to put our stamp on it for sure,
Mhm.
but it's not going to be a fully wholly owned Xbox product.
The
And
report I
so
saw, by the way, was that they were more like pausing work on whatever
right.
their handheld would be to kind of do this first. And that probably makes some more sense because Asus has already been building the stuff. They've
Mhm.
already been building the ROGs. They have a good sense of hardware. They will. Asus is an OEM for a lot of companies too, like in terms of making hardware. So yeah, get that out quickly. That doesn't mean they're not going to do their own handheld. And
For sure. But if Microsoft was really confident about it, they would have been like, okay, we are full steam
yeah,
ahead with this first party handheld. And
yeah.
for them to pause it and do the collab thing first,
hmm
is good. I think is a good indicator of what we might see going forward.
I don't think they're
S-
confident about anything in gaming. Like this is kind of why I want to have this conversation because I think Microsoft is just like looking at everything, being like, "Oh my God, tariffs, bad. Our sales figures, bad. Developers not making exclusive games for Xbox, bad. Sony is getting everything." And now they're like, handheld, handheld. Yes, that can happen eventually. But the Xbox division has been losing money, has been losing billions of dollars for many, many years. Whereas the rest of Microsoft is like, yay AI, yay cloud, our revenues are through the roof, right?
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
Devindra, you're going in the direction that I was about to go in.
Uh huh.
Like, after having just finished Empire of AI, I'm like, wow,
hmm
they are throwing so much money at
Yes.
OpenAI. They are maybe the biggest minority partner. Don't quote me on that, but they have thrown a ton of support toward OpenAI, and like their cloud services are also really supporting OpenAI. And it seems really weird now that they splashed so much cash on this Activision deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's possible that they could be working toward a play where they bring these two things together and they're like, okay, well, now we're going to generate like unique dialogue from these characters using
Yeah.
OpenAI's LLM or something, and also use it to generate the voices. The video game voice actors are not going to be happy about that. They'll definitely have something to say about that.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't see a clear path for them to bring those together in a not ham-handed way, and maybe focusing on being a publisher at least for a while is the best thing.
That'll at least make them money, right? Selling games, especially to other companies, will make money. That's especially with the franchises they have. I will say this though: the reason why Microsoft will not just be another Sega is that all Sega had was games. That's all they had. If they didn't have, if you weren't making it in the game market as Sega in the late '90s, you're done. There's nothing else you can do. Um, Microsoft has a ton of things, and Microsoft has AI, it has the cloud, it has things that are making money and literally printing money for them. Which is why, like, I feel like they can kind of hold it out a bit. Certainly, I feel like for maybe the people at Xbox, that Activision deal was like the last straw. That was your last gasp to do something big and meaningful. It's just taken a long time to get a result from that. It's going to take like 10 years for them to see the full like power of that potential acquisition. I don't it kind of makes sense for Microsoft to have just a really good Switch-like handheld that can both be docked to a TV to be like an Xbox Series S level thing, like a low-level gaming thing, but also you have a really great cloud streaming platform, and if you want to play higher quality graphics, you can technically do that over the cloud too. As we've seen with GeForce Now. I also kind of think like once things have settled, once the hardware world is less crazy, we had that idea, just make a big ass Xbox. Just make a big ass powerful Xbox. And that's basically what the PlayStation 5 Pro is. The Series X 2 TB is now $800. Um, I don't think they will be rushing to lower those prices anytime soon. So if they were like, hey, our new great high-end system, we've heard all the feedback or whatever, for the true gamers, that one is $800. Here is a $400, $500 handheld that'll get you most of the way there, and you can dock it like a Switch. Like I can see them kind of diversifying in that way. But as we were saying before, just make it a freaking Windows box, man. Just
Yeah, I mean,
open it up. Yeah.
I wrote a story like 8 years ago. It's like I still think Microsoft could do a really good Microsoft could do a really good Xbox gaming laptop. I'm not
Mhm.
sure that seems like it would have been such a slam dunk if they just nailed the specs. But I'm not calling shots over there.
It could have been good, except they were also burning billions on laptops there too, like trying to make
For
the
sure.
Surface system.
But the interesting thing is that like now if you look at a lot of like new Surface laptops, a lot of them have ARM based chips.
Yeah.
Does this, is there this is like a really shot in the dark sort of situation, but like is there a situation where hey, maybe Microsoft works on a first-party gaming handheld, but it's an ARM-based gaming handheld, which is would be closer to the Switch too,
Yeah,
than like traditional x86 based PC portable. I
I,
think
I
that's an
could see.
interesting
Yeah.
possibility we could might happen.
Especially with ARM Windows, like Windows on ARM being a thing, like certainly gaming is more possible on those things. That's certainly a thing I could see
And it
them.
would lower the price and it would make it a lot more it would be positioned more as a streaming thing that could play local
Yeah,
some local games, and that would seem to fit a little bit more in Microsoft's gaming strategy.
yeah.
But like I said, things are very up in the air, so it's really hard to say for sure
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
If Microsoft could make like a $300 handheld that's like, hey, you can play some games here, but also tap into the cloud and you get much higher quality graphics and stuff, but it's cheaper than the Switch, like then you start to have options. But these like they're not aggressive in that way and they're not willing to waste more money, I think. So we will see. We will see how
Also,
all
you
things
get
go.
the monthly subscription aspect in there because
Yeah.
you would probably have to pay for streaming.
Oh, definitely. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Game
Yeah.
Pass.
So one more thing before we move on to talking about like good games that came out recently. There was a question from Wes Jackson in the chat who asked, "Who do you guys think will come out on top in terms of handheld gaming OS, Steam OS or Windows and Xbox?" My thinking is that it's going to break down into a Windows Apple situation
Hmm.
where pretty much everything is going to be on the Windows and Xbox platform. And then you're going to get like a few really, really well thought out bangers coming out on Steam OS. And there are going to be fanboys on each side, fan
That's
people
certainly
on each
possible. I
side.
still think we are a long time away where like there's a Steam OS exclusive that only runs on Linux. That seems like
It's a very different thing.
a very big bridge that we have
Yeah.
not gotten to yet.
The thing is, Windows runs Steam. It runs all of Steam. It runs all
Exactly.
of those
Yeah,
games.
yeah, yeah.
But if you have a Windows device, you have a Steam device. You know, like so Steam OS was a great stopgap, I think, by Valve because Microsoft was just sitting there being lost in the weeds, like not knowing what to do about handhelds, not knowing what to do about so many things, as we've seen.
And there are rumors that Valve is working on like a PC based Steam OS device, which brings back all those remember all the uh difficulties with Steam machines back in like the
Yeah,
mid 2010s. But so that is kind of coming full cycle, and it's really interesting to see. Is like Valve has been beating this Linux gaming drum with Steam OS and Steam machines for way more than a decade. So I think it's really encouraging actually to see is like Valve is more committed to this platform and to the thing. And when you have a company that doesn't waver or is not or very seems to be a lot more confident in something like that, how
yeah,
if you keep at it, you can eventually build something up that becomes a lot very attractive, which is
yeah.
what we're having in SteamOS
It
right
helps when you have a singular focus, right?
now.
Valve is like they get up in the morning, they're like games, games, games. All I want is games. All I want is people also subscription revenue from various services, but games. And Microsoft is like such a confused company right now. Like they've taken like they're snorting AI. And I feel like that's all that's gotten straight into their brains, and they're like throwing money at that stuff. But so are all the other big companies. But
They
Microsoft has
take a
office
big
stuff.
rip of AI and they're like, we should open a restaurant. We should open a bar. We're going to make so much money.
We're gonna make so much money. Let's invest in this. Let's invest in that. But Microsoft has Office and Windows and server stuff, and stuff that is sold to governments, government contracts. That's fun. Microsoft has its hand in so many pies that they cannot. They lack that focus. But ultimately, if they can make a Windows install that's pretty decent on portable systems, like yeah, that's going to be the biggest one. But SteamOS is here now, and it's been a great success for Steam for years. So that's kind of the benefit there, right? They singularly focused on making a portable system that is
Mhm.
really good at games. And actually, yeah, we'll be talking more about like the state of Xbox and the state of gaming eventually, folks. But yeah, for now, let's move on to some of our favorite games that we're playing right now. Let's take a pause here. Actually, are there any good questions from the audience that we want to?
I've been throwing them in as they come in.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just go real quick because I feel like we've been talking for a while and we'll blow through news.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kevin, really quickly. Kevin mentioned the GPD Win 5 with Strix Halo. So that's the same chipset that's in the ROG Flow Z13,
Mhm.
and it's a really interesting chipset. And GPD for Dev, you know this too, has been making mini PCs and portable gaming machines, but like weird kind of. They're always a little bit weird, a little bit like awkward, but like if
Mhm.
you are into them, you're like way into them. And so yeah, like it's really interesting to see how like you could say a GPD is like one of the OGs when it comes to like portable Windows gaming stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they never reached mainstream because of the Chinese manufacturing, and they don't really have a foothold in the North American
But also because
market.
Windows is not built for that. Like that's the thing. Like Steam OS built for portable gaming. It runs
Right. There's
et
always
cetera.
a little bit of like you're fighting with the OS and you're fighting
Yeah.
with the like platform in a way that you don't really want to do, especially if you're like buying it strictly for gaming.
Yeah. Steam OS is fun because like once you need to do something that's outside of like the Steam interface, you're like, oh, I have to launch the Linux desktop.
Right. I gotta learn how to
Oh
like.
crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it feels like, oh man, we are right back to like Windows 95 era stuff. It's always fun, but it's cool that you can do that because the Steam Deck is a totally open device. You can install Windows on your Steam Deck. Nothing is stopping you. If you really want to, you could dual boot that Steam Deck. Anyway, let's move on to the game. I'm going to talk to you first, Sam, because I feel like I've been talking
Yeah,
for a
sure.
while.
Yep.
Okay. Sam, what are you playing these days? What is really, taking up your time?
I mean, it's crazy. There are so many good games coming out this fall. I think you're playing Silksong too, but the game that I just came out, I'm want to dive into more is Final Fantasy Tactics: The Evolution
Yes.
Chronicles. This game is like and we were talking about this in Slack the other day. I didn't realize until somewhat recently that they didn't have the source code for this game, and so because I guess the practice back in the day was you would just overwrite for every new version and you just keep it going and going and going. But when you want to do like a proper remaster remake sort of situation, you kind of need that source code and a lot of the original master data, and
Yeah.
they didn't have that, so they kind of had to make the game from scratch. And this is just like this is such a love letter to one of my all-time favorite games. And there are some like there's like a small camp of people who are just like really upset that they didn't include the War of the Lions content from the PSP
Yeah.
version of the game.
Yeah.
And I get it because I would have loved to have Dark Knight, I think Onion Knight and Dark Knight in the game. I don't
Mhm.
really care as much about some of the guest characters. Like they had Balthier because Final Fantasy 12 had come out around the same time. They're kind of doing, cross game promotion and stuff like that. I don't care as much about that. But, if you look at what you're getting fully voice acting, and they had to rewrite some of the script because some of the stuff that doesn't fully translate when a game goes from text
Yeah.
only to voice acting. It is just like it is so nice to have, and it's like a wonderful just like reinterpretation of an already great game that
Yeah.
I just do not have enough time in my life to sink as many hours into this game as I want to.
What platform do you put it on, Sam? Because I have it on Switch too. I'm like, my God, is that perfect?
Yes, yeah, I'm playing it on Switch 2
Yeah.
for the exact same reason. It is such a
Yeah.
great portable game that like, and it's like, oh, if you're playing on the couch, you can play a level, save, put it down, and then pick
Yeah.
it up back up. It's such a good like
Yeah.
chapter episodic game that like it being available in a portable way, and it's been available on iOS and Android for many years. But the extra quality, and you have the two different versions where you have the classic version and the new remastered graphics and stuff like that. It's just so nice.
It's just did you play the original when it came out in '97, Sam?
Yes, I actually, well, not 97. I think I
Okay.
played it on a little bit later on PlayStation, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but and then I played it again when it came out on iOS in like the mid 2000s, I think it was. I just this is a game that like I'm like happy to replay like every 5 years because it's that good.
It's that good. Like I'm also playing it, and I have such a deep love for this game. Let me tell you, I spent hundreds of hours on the original Final Fantasy Tactics in like '97. It's also why, like, how did I even get that game? Because right, I was a teenager, was not really into like tactical strategy RPGs. But I think I was a fan of Final Fantasy VII. Hey, look, a new Final Fantasy game, and it was like $40, which was a steal back then. So I remember going to like Circuit City or something to pick this up, thinking I got a really good deal. and being like kind of shocked by what it is, because it's not a normal RPG. It is a game where everybody's on a tile board, you move people around, you attack very methodically and very carefully. But I got really into the vibe. And the other thing is that Final Fantasy Tactics was also a really well written game about class struggle and the differences between the rich and the poor, and also the way the wealthy class and the ruling class can really screw over people who are beneath them. And the director for this game, the original writer, like put out a great statement ahead of this re-release saying like, the original game was written as Japan was dealing with an economic downturn and things didn't look so great for them as a country. And now he's like, that wealth inequality is still here. In fact, it's even bigger now, and it is a perfect time to revisit the themes and everything of this game. So
it's such a timeless story that like
Yeah.
you it's one of those things is like even if you know what happens, you go back and you
Mhm.
find like new little tidbits of like, oh man, I really appreciate this one line that like I didn't notice
Yeah.
before.
It is, and it's funny because like with the voice acting, this game feels like, oh, this is Game of Thrones now, right? Like I used to read, I was reading it all in my head and making up
Hmm.
stuff and making up like what these names sounded like, but no, now they are professionally voice acted in ways with, I think, really well done. Like there's a lot of drama in how these characters talk and how well how great their performances are. Like it really just adds a lot to the game, but also it's just so addictive. It's just like the sort of like job system you have in this game where you start out as a squire, you could become like a chemist or something else, but as you get more experience, you can expand your jobs. You could become an archer, you could become a thief, you could become a ninja, you could become a samurai, and those all those skills kind of build on each other. Within like 1 hour, Sam, I was already finding myself JP farming once again. Like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
you
in
got
this battle.
you got to raise the class level so you can
Yeah,
unlock new classes. And
yeah,
yeah, this is like core of is like, oh, you want to plan out your builds and plan out like, oh, I need to get this person to like black mage level 4 so I can
yes.
unlock this. And it's like I want to have my squad of like balanced like magic and physical attack. Oh, it's great. I
Also
like
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a great game to just like sit back and theory craft in a way that's fun, but like then you also have the story that brings you back to the actual plot. Yeah, absolutely.
Also want to shout out I think the new graphics look good. Like you cannot really tell that they lost like the early batch of this game. That was the thing in the 90s for Japanese studios, but also like everybody, like they just did not save source code because they were like, what am I going to do with this? What do I
Hmm.
need this for in 10 years, you know? So a lot of companies have just had bad backup practices. I'm so happy that this thing exists. I hope it's a success. I hope like it's a thing that convinces them to make more tactics games in this vein, because they did follow up the series with the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance games for Game Boy Advance. They're just not the same.
They're good, but they're not
They're
the
fine.
same. I
Yeah,
agree.
they're
Yeah.
not the same. They're like about kids and like a dream world and all this stuff, and it lost the like great storyline, great characters of this one. I've always loved. I wish we could see a version of this game from Delita's point of view.
Mm.
The game is about Ramza Beov, a young noble boy. He's raised in a rich family, finds out that the world is more complex than he thinks, but his best friend is a commoner who's brought into his family and ends up being this person who is like, I am so fed up with the ruling class. Like, I am going to go out on my own, like, start some shit. And Delita's out there, like, kidnapping princesses and doing stuff, but also at the same time being somebody who's like has a good heart, right? Is trying to change things for the better. And that character is fascinating. I hope like we'd eventually get to play him. But anyway, Final Fantasy Tactics, the Evil East Chronicles, it's out now on all systems. Also funny on the Switch, like you can buy it both for Switch 1 and Switch 2 because it doesn't need Switch 2 power.
Right.
But it's kind of cool that these things can just be broadly available in these platforms. Ben, I think you would appreciate this game, even if you're not like big into these sorts of like tactical RPGs.
I mean,
So
I like tactics. It's just that
yeah,
I've never been a Final Fantasy guy.
doesn't
Like
matter. Doesn't
the
matter. It's
game that
fun Final
was
Fantasy.
the
Yeah.
game that was put into my hand at like a very impressionable age
Hmm.
was a friend of mine from down the hall in my apartment building was like, this game is too hard for me. Do you want it? And it was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And that was what set
Sure.
me down the road of, wow, games can be art. They're like, this is an amazing story. We have another couple of games that we want to mention. Ghost of Yote out now, today. It's going to be great. we don't have anything to say about it yet because I don't think anybody else has touched it.
I've heard good things, but yeah, yeah.
How do we feel about Silk Song? Let me say it again.
I think
How do we feel
everybody
about
loves
Silk
that.
Song and
I haven't
Hades
heard a
2?
single bad thing about Silksong, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than that, it's
very,
hard. And like,
very
I've never
hard.
been a
Yeah,
platformers guy. That's
But
another thing that makes me
yeah.
unpopular among gamers.
yeah, yeah. I
This,
mean, but
yeah.
coming from anyone who has aware of Hollow Knight, they knew Silksong was not going to be easy. You know, it's always been the like, hey, the Hollow Knight and Silksong are like the 2D version of Dark Souls, and it's like you know what you're getting.
You know what you're
Yeah.
getting. I talked about initially when it came out. I thought like certain elements, like I think the jump, the diagonal down attack move is really tough because you're supposed to like bounce off of that onto many other platforms. And the game is very punishing. And after a certain point, the developers start to just like make fun of you. Like literally, they will set up a safe thing and like, yeah, come here, relax a bit, and it will be a thing that kills you. And you can imagine the developers being like, got him.
I've
It,
seen people say online that the original Hollow Knight is the tutorial for Silk Song.
Yeah. Basically, because Hollow Knight, you start out with worse skills, harder to control character, and also everybody hits you for double damage. So it is a punishing game. But Ben, platformers are great. Like I think for me, I'm the direct opposite. Like I was born and shaped by platformers, right? By Super Mario Brothers One, by
All the Metroidvanias.
Metroidvanias, Super
That's the
Mario Knight.
big difference in like our generational like displacement. I started coming in and to gaming when you first started having like third person over the shoulder, that sort of stuff. Um and it's like it was a big shift because I mean you had to have like better graphics, better rendering, like all of that.
Mhm. It was certainly a big shift, but there were platformers. You had Mario 64. That was platforming, although
It's
not as
true.
good. 3D
And
platforming
yeah, that was a
wild.
3D like third person platformer too. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
I've always just loved the sort of crispness and the sort of like exacting nature of a 2D platformer. And what I love is the fact that indie games have just kept that alive. Like the
Yep.
love for sprites, the love for old school platforming feels like, oh, everything I did love early on, I knew that was good for a reason, you know, and certainly Metroidvanias. Silk Song is great. I love spending time in it. It is frustrating at times, but also it is rewarding in a way to me that the Dark Souls games aren't. Because Dark Souls, you can always go somewhere and like level up and like really beat up a boss after that. Silk Song's like, no, this is training. You are training the patterns, you are learning the movements, you are learning how to become a better player too. So like some bosses have taken me like 20, 30 times to get through. But by the time I'm there at the end, I'm like slicing and dicing. I'm just like so in the zone of like what this boss is going to do. You're like thinking ahead and outsmarting them. And to me, that just feels genuinely rewarding in a way that few things do in games these days. So that's what I love about Silksong. But what about you, Sam? How are you feeling it?
So I have not had a chance to dive into Silksong as much, and then there's another game, Hades 2, which is like,
Yes.
So
I
okay, like the big theme here, I think, is two small development teams that learned a lot making the first game, and
Hmm.
then they brought all of that stuff that they wanted to talk about after they finished the first game into the second game. Like Silk Song wasn't even supposed to be its own
It was a
standalone
DLC.
game. It
Yeah.
was supposed to be DLC, and then they just feature crept it into its own game. I don't really expect Team Cherry or Super Giant to do like Hollow Knight 3 or Hades 3
Hmm.
just because they might be taking the same approach as Valve, which is the first game is fun because you're doing something new. The second game is where you get to apply everything that you learned making the first game. And then the third game, if you have it, is really just a quest for more money.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and definitely, especially I think Supergiant even more than the other developer is like if you look at their catalog of games, Bastion, Transistor, Pyre before
Hmm.
they got to Hades, they are such a good developer because they make the games that they want to play. And you know that like when they're making these games, you can see the lineage of, oh, these are the games that they played when they were kids, and that is what is informing
Yes.
and inspiring the work that they're doing on their current products or current work. And it's just like it's one of those things where you can tell it's like it's stupid classic line is like this is games by for gamers by gamers, and like you can really get a sense of that when you play their games.
Hmm. So I played Hades 1 quite a bit. I did Hades 2 in early access like months ago. Sam, has much changed with version 1?
And so this is my like
Hmm.
big sadness about this year is there's so much going on. I haven't had Hades 2 is the one that I'm gonna have to like
Okay.
Because
revisit.
Sam has a new baby.
Well,
Although I played or I watched my partner play
mhm.
a run of Hades 2 just a couple days ago, and I also watched them play it in early access. Um, there's not a lot that has changed between early access and now.
Yeah, they
That's
do their
another check
stuff.
mark in the list of like, you guys learned a lot making this
Mhm.
first Hades game. So even the early access version of Hades 2 is going to be way better than
Yeah,
early
yeah.
access original
And
Hades.
I think a lot of it is like optimization and tweaks that just make the game just run better, play better, and
They
yeah,
did
absolutely.
add some story stuff. I'm not going to
Good.
mention it as a spoiler or anything, but um, you see some old friends. Um, a
That's
lot
good.
of the gods are coming back, but there are some other old friends too. Let me
I
just
mean, yeah, Hades 1 was like what I noticed from the early access is Hades 2, like they've just perfected the action. They perfected the combat and movement and all these skills, and the different weapons feel so good too. So it's just so satisfying. Again, 2D, like 2D action, the sort of like preciseness you can get with that. Also makes me want to go back and finish Transistor because that's a game I love the vibe and style of it. I never quite
Hmm.
finished it. That was also like a weird hybrid of like side scroller but also tactics because
Yep.
like there were some like tactical elements of that too. Good stuff. What a time. What a time right now. I want to spend some time with Ghost of Yotei. Also that Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 remake at some point, but really
Yep.
these days like I can pick a handful of games that I spend some time on. And right now that's been Silk Song when I can carve out some time, and also Final Fantasy Tactics. And what is cool is that I can now play alongside my daughter who's playing Minecraft, and now we can game together side by side. So I'm loving that time. It'll be there for you too eventually, Sam. You just gotta stick with
Yes.
it.
And I was
Yep.
gonna say that's one of the reasons I'm excited for the Mario Galaxy and Galaxy
Yeah.
2 releases because those games are actually hard to get on Switch because it
Hmm.
was only available in like a limited time collection package. And so now, hey, I got to play a demo of those games, and it's like Mario Galaxy 1 is like, oh man, I forgot how good this game is. Mario Galaxy 2 is a little bit weird because of the Yoshi aiming and like star shooting mechanic, which feels like a tiny bit rough compared to like
Yeah.
modern the way the modern implementation with like motion controls works and stuff like that. But they're both excellent games, and just to be able to have them on a modern platform in a much more accessible way is very good.
Very good. All right, folks. We'll be back with game stuff too. I want to get Jessica on here, but she's not feeling well right now, and I want to get her thoughts as our gaming journalist about like how things are going. So we'll do another check-in with games soon. Stay tuned. Let's move on to other news that's happening this week. And I think the big one, the one that we were all preparing for, was the new Amazon event, the Amazon Fall Device event. Sam, you were there
Mhm.
with Sherlyn and Jeff, right, from Engadget Jeff Dunn.
That's right.
And it's everything expected, right? We've got some new Echoes. We have an Echo Dot Max, a bigger Echo Dot, Echo Studio that is now orb shaped like the others and not cylindrical. They're announced a home theater mode with the Echoes, which Jeff tried out and I think is kind of weird because the home theater mode is like, hey, do you have 5 of these expensive speakers? You have 5 Echo Dot Maxes, which is the cheapest entry point into this feature. You can spread around your living room. It'll work with surround sound. They say automatically. Um, I, with the new Fire TV sticks, or at least the more powerful ones, you don't have a subwoofer. These are not big speakers. You're not going to get great surround sound. That's $500 at a minimum. Go get a soundbar, folks. Go get a soundbar. Look at our. We have a great soundbar guide. Get us the Sonos Beam 2 is under 500, I think, at this point. It's great. It's great. You don't need the rear speakers, even like the virtualized surround sound will be great. There's an new Echo Show 8 and Echo Show 11. Kindle Scribe Color Soft, which is they basically smush together the Kindle Scribe and the Color E-Ink Color Soft. This thing is $630.
It look I know the price is really high, but it looks so good.
It
As
looks
it
cool.
for like for me, I've wanted a good color e-ink something device,
Hmm.
and it feels like it's been taking forever to get there. But the Kindle Scribe Color Soft, when you just look at it in person, it's like, oh, this is so nice, and it almost makes me wonder, it's like, how would modern technology be different if we had really good color e-ink displays 10 years ago or
It
five
would
years
be
ago?
much slower. We would be all still waiting for the refresh rates for those e-ink displays, Sam. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we're consuming information too quickly. Maybe we got to take a step back and go at e-ink speeds. It's a cool idea. Not at this price. And also, there's a new Kindle Scribe that's refreshed. Starts at $500 or 430 without the front light. But you would not want these things without the
Yeah,
front
I
light.
would say probably don't get it without the front light, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So $500 for the new Kindle Scribe. Again, too much. Fire TV, they have refreshed TVs. There's a Fire TV Stick 4K Select for $40. New Blink cameras, a new Ring camera, a new Ring doorbell as well. And all these things are really tied together with Alexa Plus, which is their premium offering for like AI powered Alexa stuff.
Mhm.
I believe it's $20 a month. I'm not super excited. Like I like having Echo Dots around and having Echo devices around to talk to, mainly to like control stuff in my house. I don't know if I need like them to be super AI powered things because I'd rather do that on my phone. Sam, how do you feel about Alexa Plus at this point?
I personally, I have Google devices in
Yeah.
my household, and so yes, there was also some Google smart home news. We'll
Mhm.
get to that in a little bit. Um, but like you said, I really like having smart speakers because it makes smart home automation a lot more accessible, because there's
Yes.
so many times like,
Yeah.
just go turn off the lights or go turn off the music or all of that. And like, it's kind of nice to be able to just interact with
Yeah.
something without needing a screen, and that is something that I really like. um and I think, like you said before, this really does tie into the Alexa plusness of it all,
Hmm.
where they're, Amazon is trying to make sure that, hey, it's easier to make automations with your voice. That was a big thing that they talked about in the thing, in the presentation, of like, hey, you can just make routines just by using your voice. You don't have to go in there and mess around with if this then that protocols and stuff like that.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
it's like, it's removing the need for like a dedicated smart home hub, because hey, your smart speaker is, or in this case, the smart display. There are new Echo Show 8 and Echo Show 11s. So, there is a huge range of new kind of smart home products to talk about. And they're all, I think the designs are much nicer.
Hmm.
They're more modern and more refined. If you go look at the old Echo Show 8, it's just like a wedge. It's just like
Yeah.
not very
Yeah.
attractive. And so I think those needed a definite, visual hardware update for quite a while.
I'm intrigued like to get some sort of like smart display thing in my kitchen because I feel
Mhm.
like that would be it would be useful there as a speaker. Right now I have like an Echo Studio like just sitting
And just
nearby.
having one as like a photo frame that does
Yeah,
extra stuff is actually, at the barest like functional level, is just really
yeah.
nice to have.
And also you could throw video to it when you want to, like when you're watching something. So yeah, I get that. I kind of maybe will do that. So we'll see. I'm also thinking about between that and the Google devices. One thing I want to point out, the new Ring cameras have they also have new AI features. Retinal vision is a thing they're talking about where it'll they just do more with the sensors to determine like make clearer videos and things like that. They announced a feature called Search Party, which freaked me the hell out because Search Party is a thing they say right now. It's for helping people to find lost dogs. When a neighbor reports a missing dog on the Ring app, Search Party commences on nearby Ring cameras, so other cameras around your neighborhood. These will start to look out and notify camera owners if they spot what seems to be a missing dog. The camera owner will then see a photo of the pet alongside relevant camera footage and can choose whether to alert the dog's owner. Search Party will roll out in November. That's according to our write up by Chris Holt here for our whole roundup of all this stuff.
The
Um,
press release says you can find a lost dog. What I hear is when local law enforcement
yeah.
wants to find someone, then they'll be able to do it really easily.
When
Right. And
when
so
I wants
that's
to hunt somebody down, which is what is happening on our streets right now. Yay, network cameras.
yeah,
Give
that's the
people the tools to
awkward
do it.
part of the
Yeah.
whole kind of modern surveillance ecosystem. And Ring has historically been one of the most proactive in terms of
Yep.
working with local law enforcement. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't necessarily think that's a great thing, that is definitely not going to change your opinion about the new Amazon devices because they're diving even harder into that.
They're
Um,
basically like handing cops like this tool on a silver platter that can be used in very bad ways down the line. Like once it's not a dog, think about what it could be profiling. Think about how it could be working and how the thing in your home could be a part of that. I have a doorbell camera. I think it's very useful. I have an Arlo one. It does not tie into anything else. It's just like, hey, you got a package. Cool. That's all. And that's kind of how I use Alexa too. It's like, hey, turn off the lights. Don't talk to me anymore. Because sometimes it goes, it's like, hey, would you like this new product that just came out? You seem like you're in the market for this. Sometimes Amazon goes too far and you got to rein these things in. Anything else you want to mention from the Amazon event, Sam? Because you were there in person. Like Panos Panay, the new head of Amazon devices, was there.
yep.
Um, it is always funny to hear they did not live stream this event, but we heard this event thanks to our own little live stream. But when Panos talks about his devices, this guy sounds like a preacher. He sounds like he is just delivering a sermon about how our devices can make our lives better and connect us to each other. How's Panos doing, Sam? How
I
did
mean,
you
he seems
access
to be
him?
having a great time.
Yeah.
I have heard through the grapevine that Panos is a big Diet Coke fan, which
Yep.
okay, that's cool. I'm more of a Coke
Relatable.
Zero guy, but I get it.
Yeah.
But it's like that transition when he talks about like he had a kind of a monologue about talking about how when everyone's sitting around the dinner table and then suddenly you pull out a phone, you've lost the moment. And he's totally right.
Sure.
And then but the next transition was instead of pulling out your phone where you kind of lost the moment, you have one person looking down and maybe other people are continuing the conversation. He goes, you can bring an AI assistant into the conversation and they can, because they have a voice and you're not looking at a screen, it feels a little bit more natural. And I'm like, maybe,
Now we're
but
talking
I
the
don't know if we're
sphere.
quite
Yeah.
there yet. And
Yeah.
and this is
Also,
like,
like, I know Panos has kids who are, I think, in high school now. Like he
mm,
talked about his kids like rowing crew or something in a recent event, like last year or so.
Hmm.
Once you start talking to Alexa, that opens the floodgates for the kids to be like, Alexa, play 10 fart sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's losing the moment also.
right.
It's you got to wait till your kids are mature to have a conversation with a nearby AI assistant. All these things. It's funny that all these companies are like they spent the past 10, 20 years delivering devices to steal our attention away, and now they're like, some device could be bad, okay? So maybe we should focus more on each other with a new device
Mhm.
over here.
And
Make
the
more
thing is,
sense.
like, there are some advancements, and some of these are AI like powered features where they are doing summaries of your video camera feed. So hey, it's like someone came and delivered a package. Instead of saying someone has arrived at the front door, the AI is processing goes, oh, hey, you got a package delivery. And if you're looking through your like activity feed or your notification feed from your smart home devices, that's a genuinely useful thing. It's like, I was expecting a package. I'm
Hmm.
glad that the
Yes.
thing can tell me that's what actually happened. Or, hey, you notice the dog got out, and the smart doorbell or video cameras can figure out, oh, hey, that's my dog, and someone let it out of the house, and now I got to go do something. These are actually genuinely useful advices. And it's just like, but you go back to the kind of surveillance ecosystem and mass surveillance, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like it's one of those classic double-edged knives or double-edged swords where it's like there are definite positives that we're getting with this, and there are things that we need to continue to be aware of. We can
Hmm.
continue to monitor how they affect what devices go into our lives and into our homes. So yeah, it's one of those things like I like the idea, but there are concerns.
For sure. And also, you mentioned Sam, but Google has some new stuff too.
Mhm.
New Nest doorbell, new Nest cameras. I think a speaker that's coming next year for some reason
Yes,
or something.
and so this
Confusing.
is I unsurprisingly, this happened the day after the Amazon event, and this is like kind of maybe I don't know if Google's being petty or what or not, or they're trying to steal some thunder, but like they
Hmm.
came out with a whole new line of Nest indoor camera, outdoor camera, doorbell. And this is also coming with a brand new kind of UI for Google Home. And I think it's going to be a lot easier because once again, they're using AI to kind of condense those traditional notifications, which, if you had, a plan where that would, see all of the things that are going on inside your house, you would get completely overloaded with notifications. And now it's doing AI generated summaries. And actually, that is definitely useful because, hey, I'm getting an overview of what's happening. I'm not getting 200 notifications that are just blowing up my
Mhm.
notification tray. And then that is also coming with now Gemini, and we've seen this transition coming for a long time, but now Gemini is replacing the Google Assistant as your AI assistant on Google Home devices. And this is good. Gemini's smarter and better. And it was really awkward when Gemini was like the main AI assistant on mobile devices and phones and stuff like that. And then you had Google Assistant on the smart home devices. That was a really awkward thing. So it's really
Mhm.
good to have that transition kind of in full force now. And the new devices, they look good. There's a new for the new Google Home speaker. It's going to be available in this like berry color, which I think is really eye catching. And there's also a jade one. Haven't heard what it sounds like really
Mhm.
to kind of say that, but unsurprisingly, they are also coming out with a feature that new Google Home speaker, when paired with a Google TV streamer, can also serve as like your audio source when you're
Sure.
watching TV. And so obviously, there's like a very big competition between Amazon and Google specifically when it comes to building out their smart home ecosystems. And I don't think that either company has a specific feature or feature set that'd be like, oh, I'm going to get rid of all my Alexa devices and I'm now going to go do Google Home or vice versa. But it is nice to see that they're kind of advancing this in a way that
Mhm.
they understand that. And Google is also doing the like, hey, you want to set up automations with your voice. You don't want to program it yourself. You can do that. And there's a new automations tab where you can see things and adjust them. And so it is nice to see this kind of advancement of we want the smart home to be easier and more accessible to use. And I
Mhm.
definitely think they are achieving that on a very tangible way. You know, you still have to ask yourself the question of, do I need all these devices? Do I need all these cameras on my house? That is a fair
Yeah.
question that I think everyone has to answer for themselves.
And you also have to pay more for the Gemini capabilities, right? Like you will
Hmm.
the whole point of these things is like, hey, these devices are great. You pay us 10, $20 a month, and then they'll be even better with AI smarts. And it's that recurring revenue they really, really want.
For
So
sure.
this is what
Although in,
the
in
US.
my specific
Mhm.
case, I am actually getting some new features because I'm already on the Google One AI plan that has
Nice. Okay. Okay.
it's the bigger storage plan is the reason I got it, but it does come with it feels like Google has been adding more stuff to
Yes.
that bucket, so I feel like I'm getting more out of it. I wasn't gonna change my plan anyways, but like I'm probably less likely to downgrade to the lower storage one because now I have a few extra features than I did before.
Gotcha. I want to quickly say I think the design of these new cameras is nice because like the theme this year is just circles. It's just circles. They're
Mhm.
nice round circle camera, circle doorbell. Looks very clean, which is unlike a lot of things from Nest from back in the day. Maybe the thermostat.
And one of the
Yeah.
reasons I think I had a chance to talk to some of the people on the Google Home Nest team, and they said that the speaker is coming out in 2026 specifically because they wanted to make sure that it could do all the things that it need to be a valued member of the Nest ecosystem. And so they're giving it a little bit more leeway. And in some respects, I appreciate that instead of like, hey, we're going to come out with this thing. It's not going to be out till next year.
Hmm.
If you want to wait for it, at least you know what we're doing. And so no one's gonna be surprised, like, oh, I just bought a new Google Home speaker and now this new thing get announced and I'm sad.
Take that, Amazon. Basically. Okay, we've got a couple other stories, but we're also getting pretty long this week, so I think I'm gonna briefly mention. Hey, OpenAI announced their new Sora 2 video generation model. There's a new Sora social video app, which is making like cameo style clips. Um, I'm still left thinking, what the hell do we do with these things? We're gonna have a longer discussion about these topics in the coming week, and also we really want to talk about Tilly Norwood, which is that AI actress thing. Hey, this marketing studio is trying to make an AI actress. Her name is Tilly Norwood. There's a short out there called AI Commissioner where they're trying to hype it up, which is also entirely made in AI. It all sucks. It all absolutely sucks. So it is funny to see the entire industry, like pretty much the entertainment industry, has been like, no, thank you to all of this. Like they are just saying
In
no to it.
fact,
So yeah,
Emily Blunt said in a
yeah.
podcast recording with Variety, "Good Lord, we're screwed. That's really, really scary. Come on, agencies, don't do that. Please stop. Please stop taking away our human connection."
That's pretty much it. And also, I think a lot of creatives are like no to this. There's this the AI Commissioner is a short which is trying to sell Tilly Norwood, but it's also entirely AI made, featuring AI actors. They look kind of real. They look pretty photorealistic now. But the thing I keep noticing is, why are your teeth out of focus? Why things are just weird. It's like
Low
an
res
alien
teeth.
trying to. Yeah,
Also, their motion is still way too smooth.
it's gross. We're gonna talk more about all this stuff at some point down the line, of course.
One
Real quick.
thing from, excuse me,
uh,
one thing from the Sora AI video situation is that the things that are popular on this Sora app, you cannot get the app right now unless you get
mhm.
an invite. But I imagine the
You can buy
general
plenty
public is
of
going to
eggs,
be able to see
apparently.
it soon.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
One of the most popular videos was created by someone who's like, let's make like a security camera footage sort of thing of Sam Altman stealing GPUs from an electronics store
Hmm.
to make OpenAI even better, or like to run Sora on a local instance. And then more and more people are making these videos of various people and characters, including Pokemon, shoplifting. This can't possibly be used to push horrifically racist political
Not at
narratives. Like,
all.
no, not at all. No, that's
Not
not
at
going to
all.
happen.
Just like Search Party.
I mean, sometimes when you come out with disruptive tech, it actually is really fucking disruptive.
Yes, disruptive to society.
To
It's supposed
society.
to be
Yeah.
disruptive to businesses.
Unfortunately, they forgot about that last part.
Yeah. So many things. Anyway, this is a bigger topic. We'll have to spend some time on. Real quick, I just want to shout out, check out Carissa Bell's review of the Ray-Ban Meta 2 smart glasses. She says they're finally getting useful. The more I think and write about like what Meta and all these smart glasses companies are doing, the worse I feel. Like, just like as
I
we're
was gonna
talking
say,
about.
in
Yeah.
addition to having a gaming focused podcast, we're
Yeah.
gonna have a smart glass focused
Oh,
podcast at some
absolutely.
point.
Absolutely. We'll get Dan on for that one too. In terms of what I'm working on a review of the 2026 Nissan Leaf, which I love. So stay tuned for that.
I am so glad that you were checking this thing out
It's
because
so good.
it,
Yeah.
it- and I also feel like the Nissan Aria kind of got like a short shift,
It
and
did.
it
Yeah.
incorporates a lot of the things that I liked about the Aria, but in an even more affordable package, and it's feels like it's kind of staying true to that like Leaf ethos. But
It's
yes, I'm
great.
sure
Like
you'll cover
fans
that in
love
your
it.
review.
Like what they were managed to do at a lower price point is pretty fantastic. So yeah, I wish I could buy the new Nissan Leaf. Maybe eventually, maybe in a couple of years. Sam, anything you want to shout out that you're working on?
I'm working on a couple embargo device reviews. I can't really talk about them yet.
You
But
had
I
to silence one of them, right?
Yes, I had before the podcast, make sure it wasn't making any noise and gave myself away. Um, but I did also have the Alienware 16 Area 51 gaming laptop review
Mhm.
just go up. So if you were in
Nice.
the market for a big flagship, this is like your classic like desktop replacement
Hmm.
gaming laptop. It is also kind of pricey. It does start at 2,000, although the one I reviewed was closer to like 2,800, 2,600.
Oof. Yeah.
Um, but it's got big performance, and I actually really like the new design. It's like kind of splits the difference between something that's like a little bit more understated and Alienware's classic like galactic spaceship themed kind of visual ID.
Awesome.
So if you're interested in a gaming laptop, go read that.
In terms of pop culture picks, real quick, I just want to say, hey, check out the Lowdown on Hulu/FX/Disney Plus now, I guess. But yeah, it's Ethan Hawke is a citizen journalist. He calls himself a true historian. It is such a perfect little show for our time right now. It is very much about a guy fighting for truth in like an insane world versus the rich and the powerful. Alien Earth had its season 1 finale, and oh boy, was that a Noah Hawley season 1 finale. So I love the early episodes. I did not like the way that season went down. And yeah, be sure to check out One Battle After Another in theaters too at the biggest screen you can find because that movie's real good. Sam, anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, I just finished Silo season 2, which it ends on a real
Mhm.
cliffhanger, and I'm a little annoyed about that. But I had a really good time. I think they took a little bit too long to get to the finale, but aside from that, I love a good post-apocalyptic TV show and or book in this case, which is both. So yeah, go check it out. And I'm probably gonna pick up Foundation season 3 next because I need to get back to that.
Yeah. I've heard that Foundation gets really good, and I just have not had time for it. But man, from what I saw season one, that show looks so good. Like it's so expensive. They put so much money into it. But anyway, we'll be back. We'll be back soon to talk about more topics. But I think that's it for this episode.
Okay, we're gonna stick around for maybe a couple of minutes,
Yeah,
but
do your theme
not
music.
too long because we gotta do other things, chat. Okay, so that's it for the episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor Terrence O'Brien, and the podcast is produced by me, Ben Elman. You can find Sam online
At Sam Rutherford on Twitter and also Blue Sky. I posted like one more Blue Sky tweet whatever than I did
Yeah.
in like the last month.
Yay.
I'm
Congratulations.
slowly working my way up to it.
You can find Devindra online
I'm at Devindra on Blue Sky, and I podcast about movies and TV at the Filmcast, thefilmcast.com.
You can send me cool platformer games that I'll probably never play to Hey Bellman on Blue Sky. Email us at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts. RSS, Spotify. Let me do that again. Subscribe on anything that gets podcasts. That's RSS or Spotify. There we go.
All
I'm
right.
so exacting with myself because I know that I need to listen to all of this stuff afterwards. I need to listen to me again. That is a small torture.
Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break.
I've never liked listening to myself. Anyway,
Yeah,
Roger was asking, would anyone actually use a $700 writing describe like the Scribe? I think the only way it makes sense is if you also use it as an e-reader. If unless you were like a hardcore note taker / sketching person, it's just a little bit too expensive. But if you're gonna use it as your e-reader and your note taking device, I think then it starts to make a lot more sense.
I like the idea of using a device like that as something like a hardcover book with hardcover formatting, because one of my big complaints about all of the Kindle devices prior to now is that it's like paperback sized and the formatting ends up getting weird.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
I know no one will do it because it doesn't make a lot of sense just like logistically, but I would like a dual screen e-reader so I have the 2 pages again because
You asked for too much, Sam. Yeah.
You get one foldable phone and all of a sudden you're addicted.
There's another thing Microsoft screwed up on. Microsoft, hey, you're listening? Go make the Surface Duo like good again, and maybe don't abandon like what was a really good idea. The Surface Duo still bums me out.
The Surface Duo, the Surface Neo that we never got to see.
That thing was incredible. I think you were there at the launch when they first showed it off, and
But
that was
they touch it. They barely let us see it. That was such a prototype.
it looked so good, and they just never made it, and that makes me really sad.
It's one like sometimes I wish I could just like I think a lot of us could be like, hey, just do this thing, spend a little more time on it. And I feel like one geek can really push Microsoft forward, but it's such a big company with so many people, like it's hard to cut through that bureaucracy. I feel like
the real bummer about the Surface Neo is that thing probably got killed because of Windows 10 X and that whole debacle, and then that whole thing went away, and then we ended up getting Windows 11, even though they said Windows 10 was going to be the last version of Windows. And
correct me if I'm wrong. That was when Windows on ARM wasn't fully cooked, right?
Yes, also
not
correct.
fully cooked. So maybe now that Windows on ARM is a thing, like now they can actually get that to lower level devices. Like they never made a good Windows for handhelds. Like that's the thing. The Surface Duo was Android, like Windows Phone they gave up on. So man, what a company. They don't have a Panos anymore to be like, hey, guys, focus on the users, the glory of computing. They don't have that driving voice anymore, so I feel like that kind of hurt them a little bit too. I don't know. But yeah, I think we should wrap. Thank you for a long episode, folks. Thanks for joining us. We had a lot of good stuff, and I'm glad we got to talk about games because this is a good time for all of that.
Yeah, so thank you to Wes Jackson. Thanks to Kevin Says. Thanks to DPro9. I've seen you. Thanks to Niranjan Banda. It's great to see a new name in the chat. There was also a couple of other new names. Soda something, if you're still around. Oh, Super Soda. Hello, Super Soda. and Lucky Dog Podcast was in the chat a little bit before. JJ, all of you make things like you just make the conversation better. We brought in a bunch of fun comments from people, and it's always nice to do that. If you watch this, go download the episode on RSS. I prefer RSS.
Mm-hmm.
So find your favorite podcast app. I like Pocket Casts. It's on all platforms, Android and iOS now. And throw us a download there too. So thanks everybody again.